Good morning. So markets are higher, obviously. For what reason? I don't know, associated to whatever was said last night by Trump and Democrats? I don't think so. I don't know, maybe a relief of something more severe, whatever. We have to focus on the charts. That's what we do. And prices are getting closer to a resistance area. So it's pretty much followed the script of the higher low, higher high. It's up in there, downtrend. That's what we've been discussing for some time now. So as it comes up into this 259, call it 260, that's the round number. It's not quite there yet. That's where we expect there'd be some pretty stiff selling or anticipation of that. Could certainly push a little higher. As I said yesterday, we need to see a break of a prior day's low. That is how we trade, meaning we recognize the trend, we recognize a reference point or the location where prices should meet an overwhelming amount of sellers to turn a counter trend move around. So that provides us a bias. Then we wait for a picture, right? A signal, a reversal that confirms our bias. And until we get that from a swing trading perspective, meaning shorting within a downtrend, we don't do it until that happens. So yesterday's short, shortly a little bit after the open, I covered into the gap fill. And from there, it clawed its way back, which was a little bit of a surprise because yesterday did gap up and it fell all the way back. And you can see here, on the daily chart, that bottom of that bottoming tail bar came right down to the prior day's close. And then it began to stabilize there, and all markets did. So it wound up coming all the way back up to the high. Surprise, surprise. And now it's gapping up. And so you can see that it's backing off a little bit here from the prior high because it retested the overnight high here at 257.80. So that's a new line in the sand, right, that you want to be aware of to see what is it going to do here. So far, it's just going sideways up there. So we've got a little bit of a trading range going on here pre-market. The sideways consolidation at resistance, we recognize it as a stall, but so far there's been no relatively deep retracement. So that's bullish as to what it's doing so far. Forget these whips. We'll look at the futures here, but you can see how it poked its head above the highs and then immediately came back in again. Index futures, ETFs are notorious for that kind of price movement. It's kind of like the personality of this particular instrument. And different stocks and different markets, they have kind of a personality, if you will. And this one is one in which it likes to push through some resistance and come right back in again, or push down through support and reverse back up again. It's good at shaking out or getting the novices in at the worst possible time and then shaking them loose, and then you'll see what it does. So right now it's just chopping back and forth here. And if it stays in this area, thereabouts, and comes back up here, I think we can assume that if it takes out, well, it's already above yesterday's high, it takes out this pre-market high, well, then it's going to try and push up to this 260 area. So we'll see what it does. And by the end of the day, if we have a red bar that moves deeply into yesterday's range, then we're going to be looking for shorts. If it closes below yesterday's range, then we will have a signal to go right there at the end of the day. And we would anticipate that prices would move lower from there. Right? So lower to where? Well, we just reversed the whole process as to, well, where's support? How does it react there? And so on until we see does this swing low make a new low of support where buyers may step up and some consolidation trading range begins here? Does it come back down here? Does it make a new low? All of that is the unknown. So right now, our only focus is that this counter trend move that began with a wide range bar and we anticipated a higher low, higher high, has met its first target. And now we are waiting for confirmation that sellers have the ability to take control. Gap and crap, red bar, topping tail, break of a prior low. All of that is what we need to see for confirmation. Now, if today opens here, right, opens and continues to grind its way up, well, maybe it pushes up to the 50 MA, which would be like, wow, really? After a breakdown? And when I say that, it's from, the thought of what's happened here across the board on the monthly chart, breaking its trend, and the weekly chart doing that. But this is beginning, you can see, retrace this big wide bar, but it certainly doesn't do anything to negate that move lower that started last year. So in any event, these moves off of this low like that and move up on the daily chart, which certainly brings into doubt to some extent this move. Historically, history is that the greatest opportunity to get long is always going to be on a retest pattern. So with that said, maybe this week isn't where the turn happens as I'm looking at this chart. I will see. Tomorrow is a big news day. We'll see. Maybe that drives it higher. But once we get a turn here on this weekly time frame, the idea is to be short. And as it comes down here, if we were to get some type of a reversal like this, some type of bullish pattern retesting that would be or should be a great opportunity for longs, because whether this is a more sloppy pattern or whether we go back in time and find something like this, right? Like that, where it then retested this resistance. So this type of a pattern could be what could play out in 2019, since, you do have this resistance here. So maybe, I don't know, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but point being, we need some type of a retest pattern to really get intermediate term bullish on this market. And we'll see how that plays out in the coming days and weeks. Right now, the question is whether today is going to be a turn day, or maybe market participants are just going to be, let's just see what the news is tomorrow with this economic news that's coming out. Okay. Q's pretty much the same thing. Right? Let's drag that down here, right at the high, which is that 260 area. And so it's pushed up a little bit above that. That's what I can see, right? 260. No, I guess it's right about there. What is it? 260.51. And so it's a little bit below the topping tail. So it's right in there. So the same thought process, bias here. We've had the move off of the low. It's coming into first resistance. Do we get a reversal day that could then come down and test the prior low area, which we then would embrace as a buying opportunity with the appropriate pattern? And, just to be clear, what if it just kept going down, right? So we don't know what it's going to do once it starts retracing, but that's what we do day to day is assess the probabilities of where prices are going to turn and what the trend is. Trend is still down here, still down in multiple time frames. That hasn't changed, and we'll see how far this gets. Russell marching up into resistance as well. Transports maybe bringing up the rear. Right? We talked about this yesterday. Could the transports start to bring up the rear and play a little catch up? And diamonds. How the markets will go down with IWM going up with a huge void. Some news event, Alex, possibly. Markets gapping down and IWM gaps down below a prior day's low. And all of a sudden, all that bullishness looks like not so inviting, so until what we see on the chart right now changes, I get what you're saying, right? So it's not that it has a huge void. It's running its head right into a little wall of resistance right here. So yeah, it looks great right now. It's up higher, but if you could drag this red bar and put it next to it over here, our opinions would change. And that's what we do. That's what bar by bar analysis is about. It's about these trends are down. Right? The major trend is down. This minor trend is working its way up, and it's doing it very nicely, bullishly. But if we were to take this bar and put it over here, which would be in alignment with this downtrend, we'd say, okay, I see what's happening here. Now, this is setting up to go lower. And now we would test some shorts and we'd see how they act, and we'd look at different stocks and see what's relative strength, what's relative weakness, and we'd go through our factory work at that time. So how do I bring a bias of against what's happening here? I look at the big picture. All right, what is the big picture? What is the trend on that time frame? What does the weekly look like? What does the monthly look like? Does that support the possibility of this turning lower? And it absolutely does. It just hasn't happened yet. So we'll see. So there's the futures. They're rattling around up there. It's the same story. But they got some resistance here, and you can see how the ranges have tightened up. Yesterday's range dipped down. It got a little higher. We don't know what today's going to do, but we're into this resistance here. And if you look at this even as a measured move, this is, gotten to that level of this kind of a measured move here, to where this momentum would slow and then roll. But again, it's got to, and excuse the red line, but it's got to break a prior day's low, right? That's what we do. That's how we interpret what's happening. And while, as I said, this is the area where it should roll over. Well, what if it just keeps grinding its way up? We're tracking prior day's lows. That's the method. Maybe it just keeps going up here. Maybe today things fall apart. Right now, it's got this resistance to deal with. So, just let me say, the analysis, from my point of view, as I do it, it's black and white. That doesn't mean in the moment the decision, certain decisions are so easy to do. From a swing trading perspective, it's very easy to know what to do, because if I want to be short because of the multiple time frame downtrend, I'm sitting on my hands doing nothing. From an intraday trading point of view, I've got different opportunities to go long, to go short with showing relative weakness, like the what was it yesterday? You were short some exchange stock, which looks god awful. So there are different opportunities in this market to be long and short. Dow, same thing, right? Marching its way up into this resistance area, and popped up above the highs, came right back in again. So a little bit of bearish action going on there, and we'll see if this breaks lower and what it does. And bonds down here, right, coming down to where some buyers will want to show up, but look what it's done. It's why did that go to a 5 minute? Had a breakout and it retraced all the way back down to the low. So deep retracement there. So a little bit of bearish action by the depth of that retracement, which is a positive for the yield curve, which has been narrowing because those yields move up as that moves down. So a little breathing room based on that. Oil having a good day, got through $50, coming up to 52, then the next level right up there. And gold continues to hold up, but a lot of the the gold stocks, not that, the gold miners just haven't they haven't done very well with the advance in gold. I looked at NEM, maybe that has done well, done better, but it's still just a grinder. So kind of interesting that the way gold has gone up, and a lot of the gold stocks just they haven't really been lighting up like that. So that being said, I'll hand it over to Dan.
All right, good morning. We are pretty light on inventory, and I'm definitely hoping for a retracement here. We got a bear call credits, bear call credit spread that expires today, and it's right here. We're at the 257. I'm sorry, we got the 258 short call. So as long as it closes today under that at 4:15 Eastern, then we make max profit, but it's against us right now. We entered yesterday morning and, it grinded its way back up. We entered HQY a short yesterday and stopped as the day's high. It's bouncing around pre-market. We'll keep an eye on that. The old tandem, we set at 25%. So that's 1/4 of your lot size because it is not an ideal entry. But we like to break out on daily, weekly, monthly is all in alignment. Oh, I even forgot about this little guy, Alex. Do you know what you call this pattern here at the November low? That's a bullish island reversal. So that's another plus. All right, I got a bunch of carryover watch items. J&J still looks great. And Lily is a 1, 2, 3, an imaginary for Pat, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to have the same problem today that if we see a very bullish, compelling pattern, and look at the weekly. Weekly looks fantastic. Kind of a trading range, but still above the 20, higher lows. Engulfing bar. It's just the market internals are overbought right now. The breadth, the McClellan is over 300. It went from negative 300 to positive 300. And remember, I was asking Greg that the other day when it was like at midpoint or wherever it was. I said, hey, how will your bias change? Because we were expecting lower highs when you had such a nasty sell-off. We were expecting lower highs on breadth. But guess what? It just did over 100% retracement. So that's strength. But anyway, we'll continue to do our factory work. But my point is, this is a beautiful pattern. But when I go down my checklist, one of the things of the checklist is, are you trading in line with the broader markets, the sectors, and market internals? Meaning, you don't want to enter longs when you have overbought market internals. So that's my problem right now, unless this is on its own page. But I still like Lily. Let's go ahead and let's put him in a little window here. So Lily and J&J, I like them both. Totally different patterns, of course. This was a little reverse head and shoulder, 2-bar 180 reversal. We did a put spread, took our profit, and then I said yesterday it's a directional over the high, that little green bar, and that triggered.